Hello everyone. Today's Unscripted Memories is a bit unusual. Normally for Unscripted Memories I do it based off games, series, life events and game media. Stuff I'm familiar with or have experienced or am close to experiencing. Typically if I want to cover something but I haven't played it or seen it yet, I don't exactly want to make something on it. This is like a trailer impression or something. Today it's a bit different, and it's why I'm going unscripted instead of eternal, and why I am actually gonna just make this a bit of a weird episode. That there's skits involved, weird stuff involved, confessions involved. It's gonna be a weird episode. Like usual, all Eternal Memories episodes I say give the PG to teen rating. So this one, same price here. Just know that we get into the shadow realm a bit of emulate and whatnot. So forgive me, but you at least get to see my stance on that, because I usually, as you may have seen from my Weka review, I don't like to talk about that aspect much. But the good news is, I should be able to give this review, well not review, but overlook of a series I'm really wanting to get into, a fair shake, and one that I hope fans of this series love, and welcome me as a newcomer, and that newcomers maybe like me will check out the new game coming out in a few days after filming this video. Hopefully this does not age like the Contra episode where I was excited for World Corps and then it was a disaster, and I'm really hoping that this game I'm looking forward to is not that, but I hear it may be good, because it looks good, and the story at least will be good, and the art's good, lots of it's good. But since I'm not doing a review of the game for Seafoam Gaming because, for one thing, I want to buy the game to support developers, I am thinking about just doing it in this video form, just saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking of the game and the series as a whole, and the subject of re-releases and what I think people should do to these developers, and just gush over my experience with developer stuff, which is sadly not much, but hey, it's a fun episode today. It goes all over the place. I may not even be in the same shirt, I may do it on different days, but I hope you enjoy the end product. Thank you. Enjoy. To a very small minority of my audience, you might know this as the first place I ever made a video. Yeah, I am back here after a decade to talk about a game series I've not even fully experienced. Why did I move my normal seat? Well, besides wanting to do some skits, it's because I kind of want to, I guess, get more personal and talk about some stuff, because I mean, I kind of have to deal into the past a bit when it comes to why I got into some parts of the series and whatnot, and I might as well dip more into that sort of environment and I guess mention more about my furry, like being a furry, because that kind of is important to the story. So, yeah, I guess we might as well start. A lot of game series I get into or really like kind of take a lot of factors for me to really like them as much as I do, and to the point I don't stop talking about them. For example, I mentioned in my retrospective that I am indeed still planning on doing. I just have a roadblock with Explosive Sky, but I'm almost done, and I think I might get it out this year, hopefully. But with stuff like that, I mentioned the first episode I ever made when I was still shy and I barely wanted to show myself on camera. That Mystery Dungeon changed my life, because the game came out at a time when I was relocated. I was completely new to my surroundings. I escaped a horrific situation that me and my mom were in that caused me to lose some dignity, I'll just say, and stuff I don't want to talk about, but it kind of impacted my life, to say the least. So Mystery Dungeon, as I said many times, has gotten me through that, and that's why that series is cherished and beloved. Even if I don't like all the games that come out like DX, I still enjoy the franchise as a whole and love the games I do love, like Super and Gates Infinity, and yeah, the Explosive Skies special episode even. And for the most part, that just, even if it takes a hard event in my life, it connects me to games in ways I didn't think of. There's some games where I associate with an event in my life even if I don't care for the game or it's not even a favorite of mine, and I can't not remember it because of that. And that's kind of why I made Eternal Memories, because I like talking about stuff I grew up with and memories in my life. Because one of the reasons I worry about death, I guess, is because of my near-death experiences as a kid, and now I worry that because there's nothing after death, then it's a void. So if I die, then the whole universe might as well end, because that's what I worry will happen one day. So I guess I just keep this as a diary so that if I do pass on or something happens to me, people can know that, yeah, I had a good life and I did a good deed. And these are the series to thank for it. And these are the games to thank for. Even if they're good and bad, I still have a good time making every video. And even if they take a long time, like the recent episodes have been, I still enjoy making the scripts. I enjoy playing the games. I enjoy writing the scripts. I enjoy funny ideas I have. And I hope you enjoy the ideas I show today in this Little Tail Bronx Unscripted Memories. So you may be wondering, why is this so deep? Did Little Tail Bronx, was it a childhood game of yours? Did you play Tail Concerto on the PS1? No. In fact, to be honest, PS1 is a system that's kind of alien to me. Before 2015, I hadn't even touched more than 2 games in the entire system. And those were a Spiral game that I watched, not a relative, but a family friend play. And I also played Harry Potter on the PS1. And the Harry Potter games are actually kind of thing I want to talk about later, but I'm not in the mood because you know who having a transphobic meltdown, let's just say. And thus I want to support someone who hurts minorities, including my friends. And said friends are also part of a group we're going to talk about today that I'm a part of. But yeah, the PS1 is a pretty interesting system. I've gotten really into it lately, but I didn't hear this game much until well, I want to say, I guess I probably heard of it off and on throughout the decade just because of its notoriety. So, those rare games on the PS2 and PS1, like Persona 2, bunch of Atlas games, Harmful Park, Little Ralph, bunch of Japanese games too, and one of the ones that's the rarest is Tail Concerto, action RPG adventure game set in a world of animals and, yeah, just animals all over the place. And humanoid animals, kitten animals, and just a bunch of cute animals. It's pretty much the cute version of Mega Man Legends. That's how it was described in magazines. That's how it was described on reviews I saw back then. And that's how it's described whenever people would make the top 10 worst PS1 games ever and always include it. Because, oh, it's Mega Man Legends, but you're in a mech and you are a dog that bullies cats. And I'd like to say, oh, yeah, I heard this game and I bought it and played it and it was a good game. But as I mentioned in the intro, here's the interesting part about the Little Tail Bronx series. It's like Earthbound in the sense that it's not easy to play. The main attraction, the reason I'm making the video, is coming out soon. But the other game that I got into the series for also came out later and is also rare. And that's, I mentioned in an unboxing I did recently that I had lots of fun doing. But Tail Concerto is kind of just a game that exists. It's a cute game, and if it probably didn't have a spiritual successor, it'd probably be just a one-off cute PS1 game in the same sense that Little Ralph and Harmful Park are. They didn't get sequels. They were good PS1 games that were rare, but they're good. They're their own individual fun entities. So what makes Tail Concerto so different? And to be honest, I can't answer that because I haven't played much of the game. Though I am going to mention, I said much. There's a reason for that. So I mentioned in the record episode that if I really don't want to, I avoid emulation. And that's basically always the case. Even if it's a game that's never been re-released, I don't like to emulate it. I'm like a patient guy. I'll wait 2-3 years to play a re-release or find the original cartridge, even if it takes a while, because I'm not desperate to play a game ASAP. And I'm not want to try games on a whim using emulators when I could just buy them. It just feels better, not legally scary that way, and it's just enjoyable to go to a store and pick up a game you didn't know you may want. And sometimes games that you think, oh, that's a cool, but I don't need it, they get re-released, like for the first time ever, years later, like Zombie Nation for NES, rare NES game. I heard it was cool, never cared to check it out. Coming to Switch, so I'm gonna check it out. That's just how those things work. You get lucky and sometimes you get to play an old retro game. Same goes for most of the Mega Man X games. I only got to play the first 5 because of PSN and eShop, and then I played the rest through the Legacy Collection, and that was a good time, except for X7. Tail Concerto is a bit different because, like the Mother series, it didn't get a reissue in any way, shape, or form. And as I mentioned earlier, stuff like Mystery Dungeon means a lot to me because I grew up with it and it saved me from a bad time in my life. Ys is another series I like because it was when I was in my teenage years and I found a great series that reminded me of Mystery Dungeon that a whole bunch of games I never played were all at my disposal to try out over the next few years. and I've been slowly making my way through most of the series. I've been for the 9 games, and I'm hoping to finish the rest soon. Valis is one I got into a few years ago because it was a PC Engine platforming series with good music, good animation, and it ended on an awful note, but the PC Engine games were a good series. And that's coming back too! We got a collection of games from Renovation, and also the Valis collection is coming to Switch, and I'm so excited for that. That means we could get a new game after, 20, 30 years? That sort of stuff so excites me about these old games, is that even if I'm patient, it seems like they'll never ever come back, sometimes they just do. And I guess that's kind of why I died due for Little Tail Bronx for so long. Because, I was like, oh, that Tail Concerto is so weird. It's probably a, PS1 game I could emulate, but I could just buy it. And then I learned a sad truth about this game. It's a Bandai game. And for those who don't know, Bandai is a company that makes a lot of anime stuff and publishes a lot of games in general. On the PS1, they did a bunch of stuff like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon games and some other stuff. I even own some of their games like Emulation, which is a really good fighting game. And they also made an RPG for the PS1 Japan only for that show as well. But this is not an anime licensed game, it's just an individual game made by CyberConnect, which is a company that was established and made this game and another game I don't remember the name of. And I don't want to guess because it would probably be some violent takedown or something I'm messing up badly, or psychic bomb. I don't know. All I know is that they made a beam up and a cute animal game, which is Tail Concerto, and Tail Concerto is a pretty fun game, at least from the bit I played. And how do I play it? That I do for Valis, where I know super obscure, and I just went on PSN Japanese and bought Len and bought the game because I always go the legal route, even if I have to go through hoops and pretzel myself. Or did I get a real disc to play? No, because Tail Concerto is one of the rarest games on PS1, and it's $350 for the disc alone. The demo disc is $40 and is everywhere, but it's not like the Kyo Fighting Squadron one where you can break the game and hack the demo and just make the whole game available in one swoop. That'd be pretty good, honestly. But nope, you have to shell out the cash for this game you may not even like that's only 10 hours long. Or you could directly buy it off the Japanese PlayStation Store. After all, Harmful Park and Little Ralph are both on PSN, and a lot of the Squaresoft games made to PSN, like Einhander, so surely Tail Concerto did too. And to be fair, their other debut game, that fighting game I didn't remember the name of, did get a PSN release in Japan, but not Tail Concerto. And upon doing research, it seems it's because there's a theme song in the game that's really good when you listen to the Japanese version. It's like a really good theme song. But it's done by a J-pop star, and Sony Music owns it. And anyone who knows, especially with my anime retrospective coming up on Pokemon, that Sony Music copyrights are so strict that, companies like Ship to Shore take a long time to negotiate them for stuff like the vinyl releases of Mother. So, you can't edit PS1 games onto PSN. Sony wouldn't let you. So if they couldn't remove the song or even get the license for it again, then it's just not coming back. Sure, the US version could have been re-released with its own instrumental generic song, but they didn't really put out much games at all. I don't think Bandai even put a single game on the PSN archives in North America that wasn't Namco related. If I'm mistaken, let me know, but I'm pretty sure they didn't really touch much of their catalog. Not many good parties did, and I'm writing an article on my website talking about why that is and why stuff like Switch Online is kind of going a weird route with obscure games instead of ones people want from Square and whatnot. But case in point, stuff like Tail Concerto that has legal issues are usually deemed too expensive to bother reissuing, especially if not people will buy it. Tail Concerto was not a good success, and back in the day it didn't sell much copies at all. It came out in France, Japan, and North America. Not Europe, just France, because of a funny tidbit that I'll explain later. But yeah, Tail Concerto is a game. I played it, and how I played it is PSP. Anyone who knows a PSP knows how easy it is to mod them, and the PS1 archives, you can directly inject any game and make it one like it's a PS1 archive. So yes, I went to the internet and used the internet to try the game out on my PSP because there was no way I was able to even save that much money or hope for a reissue because, to be fair, the song's kind of why I don't think it's been reissued. And Bandai and Namco don't even release stuff in general that people want, like Xenosaga. Xenosaga fans have had it rough. Even with Xenoblade being a big success, they don't want to reissue anything. And also, Klonoa 2, there's the Klonoa Encore coming out soon, but it's probably going to be the first game again. And Klonoa 2 is a game that at my work we've sold for $130 pretty consistently. And that's another game that's out of the hands, and also a furry game I kind of want to talk about someday, because that's another series I do have familiarity with, Klonoa. But yeah, Tail Concerto, not happening. The PS and the archives are down. They are not really updated anymore. The PS5 store doesn't have PS1 games, and there's no way Namco would want to HDify the game because who's gonna buy it? There needs to be an audience proven for Tail Concerto. And people like me who can't even try it won't even know, should I even get into this series if it's so expensive? Can I just emulate it? It's not even the same experience. That's why I went to PSP route instead of the computer, because at least it's on the Sony system and it's giving me what should have happened if Bandai and everything with the intro song for Little Tail worked out. But yeah, Tail Concerto is the first game in the series, and it's a very hard entry point because you can't get it. If you want to get it, I guess you can spend the money or make the French copies cheaper, I don't know. Japanese copies cheap, but you need the Japanese PS1 to play it, and even then, I like Japanese and I could probably read the game, but the characters in that game are what make the series shine. And that'll be more apt with the next game that has the whole genesis for me getting into the series and my reason I'm in the basement talking personally, because it kind of is a long journey, and one that gets a bit, as I said in the intro, a bit more personal and hopefully not to the point the developers want to kill me, besides saying I emulated the first game. And that, well, I guess before I go into it, I'm going to reiterate some stuff, because yeah, unscripted memories, I do this all on a whim, and we come into Rambo situations. So I mentioned Ys. Got into it as a teenager, pretty much bought on the Wii. I bought the third game and fourth game on the PS3. I got the remake on Vita, and I've been playing 6, 7, and 8, and 9 at my own time, hoping to beat them. And 5, I have to emulate because there's no English version in existence, and the Japanese version is very heavy, and I don't understand what's going on. And remake on the PS2 is awful. So Ys, that's another series I'm into that's very niche and didn't have much of an audience, and then XC Games brought it over and got a good audience. Even though they took a while to localize some stuff, they did a pretty good job. And then NIS America took over, and after a rocky start, they've also gotten a decent start with it too. And thus, Ys is healthy. I can see a lot of people, my friends, that pick up Ys 8 on the Switch without me telling them, and they get into the series like I did in 2012. And it's really nice to see a series you thought was very niche get popular. Saw Mystery Dungeon DX too. And even though some stuff like Animal Crossing, I'm not a fan of everyone jumping on board and, being a newcomer and kind of taking over the conversation. Stuff like Ys and whatnot is good. And hopefully Valis is that way too, if the compilation gets westward and the renovation compilation makes more people aware of Valis, and then maybe there's a 5th game that comes out. That'd be great. Especially in this day of age where there's a bunch of anime platformers and the team could do it justice, like Way Forward. And there's other games I'm into that not on the same level I really like a lot of shooting games like R-Type, Gradius, Castlevania, Contra. I like all sorts of those games, also some retro games. Arcade Archives is my jam lately. So, you may think for the most part that, oh yeah, this Little Tail game, even if it's hard to get, I might as well emulate or heck get merchandise. And I have been. But not for Tail Concerto, even though I'm interested in checking it out my own time and getting over my guilt of having to emulate it. There's this other game I mentioned in the unboxing video that sparked the whole thing, and it's quite a tale. But before we get to that, they made another series in the Intamin that I do want to talk about because I've never played it, I've barely touched it, I only know of it through an unlikely source. My aunt. So, in 2002, I believe, they made an RPG series for the PS2 called Dot Hack, which I heard back in 2008 and 9 on forums as, favorite RPG for PS2, it's really emotional and good. That's all I knew about it. It was an internet-themed RPG with lots of fake cyberspace MMO aspects to it. And a lot of people loved it. It was a 4-part series, and then it became another series on later in the PS2's life. and they did an HD remake of the second series on Steam and PS4. But it just doesn't seem like my kind of game. Seems too grindy and drawn out for my taste. But CyberConnect 2 wasn't really doing well, to the point that they renamed themselves CyberConnect 2 because the CEO left, a new guy took over who wanted to make games that weren't for mobile, and they did a darn good job at reviving the company because Dot Hack was a huge success. There was anime, the PS2 games, a bunch of fan art and all this stuff. Even today, I still hear people talk about Dot Hack, even though there's not been a new game in over a decade. And like, Dot Hack's probably the biggest game CyberConnect 2's ever made that's not an anime license. So how did I hear about the game besides the forum posts? Well, the most memorable part of Dot Hack to me is that last year during the coronavirus pandemic, my aunt had a nurse friend, because she's a nurse and she knows lots of nursing friends, who posted on her Facebook about how her favorite video game that got into video game music was Dot Hack on the PS2. The original 4-part trilogy had music so good it made her realize that video game music was just as good as normal music, if not better. And I find it funny because my aunt was like, "Did you hear about this Dot Hack game, Connor?" And of all games, it was that game. And that's the music in it that made it stand out to even an ordinary nurse dealing with COVID patients. I find that kind of admirable, honestly. And even though I've not listened to any music in the series myself, if it's as any good as these, it'll probably be amazing. But yeah, that was the big game, and in one of the hack games, they even flew Tail Concerto nods. Some characters were named after the characters in Tail Concerto, and there was this one website ban on one of the games where they add a 2 at the end of the logo and tease, "Oh hey, Tail Concerto 2's coming out," because they want to do that. But Bandai didn't want them to because it sold bad. So what did they do? What did CyberConnect do to continue Tail Concerto without being Tail Concerto? They made a new IP in the same universe, and that is where the story really takes off for us. In the middle of 2010, I, myself, was still in that phase I mentioned in the Wii U video and some other episodes I made, where I avoided third-party games like the Plague on any system, unless they were like very small niches, like Inuyasha-themed games, Kodiyoku-themed games, or stuff I got without asking, were usually the only things I got that were third-party because I didn't trust them, after a certain Nicktoons game broke my heart as a kid. So I was unaware, and even though I was only on Animal Crossing community back then, there wasn't really much non-Animal Crossing talk or non-Nintendo talk at all when it came to games there. The only series I heard of was Kingdom Hearts because people kept talking about 358 over 2 days and how it made them cry, and that came out in 2009, I believe. So that's the only game I really heard of before 2011. Then I started paying attention to 3DS's hype cycle, all the games coming out in Japan, all the games announced for Japan, and then I got on board with the 3DS hype machine. But in the middle of 2010, a game known as Solatorobo and then to CODA was in development, and it was coming out later that fall. And while I was blissfully unaware playing Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver again, probably for the second time, there was this action RPG adventure game coming out in Japan that was very anime, very furry, and just very actiony, and was basically Tail Concerto 2 in all but name. The characters were different, but the world was the same. There were cameos from the original game included, and there was a new story, anime cutscenes in the game, which for a DS game is pretty impressive, and lots of voice acting, both compressed and uncompressed. It didn't have full voice acting like Tail Concerto, but it was a pretty big game for the DS, and as Nintendo Power would refer to it as, or at least some might remember at the time, it was the Kirby's Adventure of the DS, the final swan song technical showcase before the new system would bring the new dawn to the day. And for me, I was unaware of it, just did not know it existed, and that would probably be the case if it wasn't for the aforementioned Nintendo Power. So in 2010, I was full in 3DS hype mode, and as the game launched in Japan in, I believe, late October, I was only into 3DS stuff. I was excited for the Ocarina of Time remake, the Star Fox remake, a bunch of other stuff that was coming out, Bust-a-Move, Dream Trigger, lots of cool looking games I wanted to try, even though I never ever wanted to play third party games. Like, these games looked fun. They were like Wii games on the go, instead of DS games with bad 3D in them. And I was excited for it. And meanwhile, this game was on the DS only, and another thing was, and that was Pokemon White and Black. I just mixed those up. But basically, that was another game that was struck by the 3DS. A lot of people didn't want to play it when it came out because it was not a 3DS game. It was a DS game, and DS games played on 3DS, but a lot of people like me were like, why do I want to play an old game on a new system instead of the new stuff? People didn't really realize what we missed out on back then, but at least for Pokemon I got it, because my friends got it, even if I got like a month after they did. So at least I got Pokemon, but that also had lots of word of mouth and anime, all the usual stuff Pokemon had. Meanwhile, this game in Japan just came out, sold terribly, and it seemed like it was destined to just never come out anywhere else. And then in 2011, Bandai, of all people, published it in Europe as Solatorobo Red the Hunter. It got released in July. It was a really well done localization, and it seemed like the localization was done because CyberConnect 2 wanted everyone to play the game. And I think that's very admirable. They kept the Japanese voice acting intact instead of dubbing it like they did the first game, so no Lonnie Manella this time around, or any of the other 6 voice actors from the first game. But this game just had its own charm, and a lot of people really liked it. And while it was being liked, XSEED Games, the same one behind East and Trails in the Sky and all these other niche games, localized it like in 3 months? September, October, I believe it was 1 or 2 months. They just brought it over from Europe to North America, and they did niche games. And before then, the only time I heard of these guys, because this was before East was in my mind, was the Wizard of Oz RPG DS game. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but there was a weird Wizard of Oz RPG on the DS that was all touch controlled, and I saw a trailer for it, and I was looking up all the old Wizard of Oz movies for a school project, and I was blown away. Japanese meets Wizard of Oz, a movie I could barely watch because it just made me so sad. Like, I wanted to play it, but it was a licensed game, and licensed games hurt me once, so I didn't get it. And I think that game might be weird too, but at least I'm not missing out on that because it's touch controlled. It was still a weird oddity though I want to check out someday. But yeah, before Solatorobo, I've only heard of XSEED through the Wizard of Oz DS game. And I still think that's kind of freaky that game was made to begin with. But yeah, Nintendo Power, after XSEED picked up the game, did the preview of it and basically said it was like Mega Man Legends. And at the time, Mega Man Legends 3 was cancelled. A game that back then, Lung Me was like, yes! It's cancelled! And you may be thinking, what the fuck? You want the game cancelled? I was gonna say this for a Mega Man Legends video I'm planning. I have lots of videos I want to do before I die. But basically, as a kid, I grew up with Mega Man 64, which is a terrible port of Legends. And the voices were awful, the controls were bad, clunky. It was just not made for the N64 in mind. And it was like a early 2001 game. Lung Me didn't know what to do. So ever since then, I associate the whole series with, oh, that game sucked. It shouldn't continue. Not knowing the whole long journey between 2 and 3, the cliffhanger ending, all the stuff I now know since I played and caught with all those games thanks to the PSN releases. Another series that would have been a whole tour expensive if not for that. Especially Tron Bonne, my god. But yeah, Mega Man Legends 3 was cancelled and I did not care less. I didn't care for Mega Man. I mentioned in the Mega Man video, NT Warrior made me not like Mega Man in general, so did 64. So, needless to say, when I heard Nintendo Power was based on Mega Man Legends, this furry, I didn't know it then, but this weird animal-themed RPG game was based off a game I hated, I thought, oh god, it's terrible, isn't it? And then I looked at the game, it looked okay for a DS game, but the characters looked weird. I still didn't get why they were all animals. And, it looked fine. Lots of mechs and stuff. And apparently there was going to be DLC bundled in the game to make up for the North American wait. But needless to say, I also, trying out games on the 3DS and even the DS. Heard about Monster Tail in the same issue. Not the same issue, but like the same year. And I wanted to play that, but it was on the DS and I heard they wanted to put it on the 3DS. And they never did. So maybe they put that game, whoever owns Monster Tail, I can at least play one DS game I regretted missing out on as a kid. But yeah, Solatorobo eventually launched in, I think, late September or late October of 2011. And it got massacred because it came out a week or two before Dark Souls, the game that everyone in my school talked about. My teacher talked about it, my special ed associate talked about it, my friends talked about it. No one would shut up about Dark Souls. That was Bandai's biggest hit of the whole year. arguably, because it started a whole series that my friends still love to this day, a company my friends still love to this day, and I'm the weird loner that got Game Heroes in 2016 and only like that of all the From Software games. So yeah, XSEED published a Bandai game that died to a Bandai game. And so does Solatorobo with a fade into the ether, and arguably stayed that way. It was just a 3D game on the DS when the 3DS was hot and no one wanted DS games anymore. And while I was trying new series like Blaze Blue, Street Fighter, and whatnot, I didn't want to try this game because it looked old, ancient, and I just passed on it. Thought maybe I'd get on a sale. Flash forward to 2010. Not 2010. 2012. We aren't going backwards, we're going forwards. Sometime 2012, when I was, getting some more DS games, because Black 2 and White 2 were coming out, I went to GameStop, and in their DS aisle, they had Solatorobo Weather Hunter, which came in this plastic cardboard box that was basically, like most bundles Atlas made or XSEED made, that had a CD thrown in, because the East games did that too. They threw in a CD with East and Trails in the Sky. They make merch and just throw them in. Piece of shit! But Solatorobo had no collector's edition, it just had a CD and the game. Japan got this really cool edition with, I think, an art book, and the first print had a DVD that had the game's cutscenes and trailers in DVD quality, which is really good for the DS game. And having looked at the DVD in person with a archive, it's really good, and it makes me want to animate this game. And I think an anime like the Dot Hack games might be what gives the Little Tale series a boost, if not for what's upcoming. But yeah, I saw the game. The game that Nintendo Power said was like the Kirby's Adventure of the DS. And I was like, oh my god, it's a DS game, but it's $20. CD included. I love CDs. Even if I hate the game, I love to get a CD, listen to it on my computer, and like Inuyasha, it's Japanese. I love it. The front art was amazing. I was gonna pick it up. Then I flipped the cover. And somewhere around you'll see that the back box art was horrendous. To me, this 3D render, this stupid 3D render of Red, the main character, turned me off the game hard. I was like, this is a 3D game on a DS. Oh my god, this looks hideous. It's probably a whole ugly mess. I was like, no, I'm not getting this game. I don't think I want this game. So I was like, I'm gonna put it back and maybe just buy it later to poke fun of it. And I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, oh god, this is an ugly DS game. It should have been on the 3DS instead. If it was a 2D pixel art game, I probably would have bought it back then. But yeah, that was my encounter with Solatorobo. I saw it, I looked at it, front cover impressed, back cover turned me off. If the European art was used, I might have bought it, because the back of the European box is actually pretty... It tells the game a lot better. No corny catchphrase, good screenshots, good character art instead of 3D render. It's pretty darn good, and I say that XSEED, as much as they do good at marketing obscure games, they maybe messed that one up a bit, especially for young 14-year-old Connor. Little did I know that after my experience missing out on the game, Solatorobo would come back to my life a few years later, but before then, if you remember from my fanfiction DeviantArt episode, I became a furry in 2014. It started, as I mentioned in that episode, in ways I'll just truncate. It started out because I wanted to get the writing stuff and get better at writing. I went to fanfiction.net because I was in a Looney Tunes mood, and I wrote a bunch of goofy Looney Tunes stories that were really cringe. Then I went to DeviantArt and I wrote some of those, but then no one read them. So then I wrote a Renamon story, and then a friend of mine joked that, that should make it goofy. And I just thought, let's just do inflation. And it blew up, no pun intended, and I got lots of watchers and views from that story, and I was like, oh god, have I perfected my writing? Has someone finally accepted me? And then I realized that I was going down into a deep, dark rabbit hole of being a hire slave of sorts, of just people writing their weird ideas and me writing almost anything I was comfortable with. And I showed Grandma a bunch of these awful stories that I can't bear to look at because the grandma's so awful, and bless her heart, she didn't mind most of them and thought they were really well written, which, weird tastes, am I right? But needless to say, a bunch of that stuff, I got into the furry fandom as a result, and then I found my own niche. I wrote stuff I enjoyed doing, and ended up getting off DeviantArt in 2014 and became a furry, and yeah, that's still the case to this day. I'm a reviewer by day, furry by night, have my two sides separate, and we separate them in peace and harmony. But yeah, that was just me trying to be a writer, and if it wasn't for me leaving DeviantArt in 2014, because shortly afterwards, I became a game reviewer. I wrote on my website, I had fun reviewing a game called Chubbins for the Wii U, and I just helped out indie devs, because I was like, not many people are covering these games, maybe I can. And thus that began. I started to review some games I was looking forward to, and my site's still staying 7 years later. And so is this YouTube channel, which I started about, 6 years ago? My God, it's been that long. And here I am today, rambling on camera about stuff. Off and on. So, that, I would say, is what the story of Solatorobo would be, and I just say, I just emulated it, or I bought it secondhand, and I enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, or I'm just gonna look forward to the next game and just move on to that. But this is when it gets weird, and honestly, I like to say it went more like this.
Was that a purple cat lady on my screen with orbs? I must learn more.
So Lepers, it wasn't a retrospective or a Retronauts or one of those many retro game channels I really love that show off cool, obscure games that I like to check out. That's how I got on Nevada's, actually, because of a retrospective, which I hope my retrospectives help people check out, especially this one. If you get the game coming out, I got mentioned it later, but if you get what I'm gonna talk about later, then I did my job and mission accomplished, even if we've gone through a lot of bumps and roads. But yeah, that was basically how I found Solatorobo again. And I've never been the same ever since. Ever since I turned 18 in 2016, I couldn't escape waifu culture. Which is weird, because in general, I mentioned this, I usually think it's stupid, especially in a bunch of Japanese gacha games just do awful, sexualized, disgusting character designs or just weird clothing, and it's like, who likes this shit? And I still don't get that to this day. And I just like stuff that's cute and cuddly and normal. Even on my furry sightings, I just like stuff to be tame and not crazy or stupid. Like, I want to bonk someone for hammer if they do something stupid. Like, God, I saw, what was it? What was this game? Moeo Chronicle? I don't even look that game up. It's not good. I have to review that, and I've been stuck for years because I get conflicted every time I boot the game up. But stuff like that, I hate that stuff. So you may be thinking it's surprising, unless you watched the unboxing I made, that I get into a game because of an attractive character. And yep, that's it. I got into Solatorobo because in 2016, one of my furry friends drew NSFW art of a villain, anti-hero of sorts named Opera Quans, who is part of a small legion of people in the game that try to serve an evil God Nerwolves, as I will jokingly refer to him as and not give spoilers away, and I'm not even being, I don't even want to spoil myself in the game either, so I'm just gonna nickname him to avoid comments. Plus, I think that nickname fits considering another thing that a friend told me about that I kind of want to do a game with in a bit. But yeah, Opera Quans and her two-man crew were basically fun characters in Solatorobo, and someone made an SFW of Opera Quans, and my adult self could not resist. You never know what you enter in the Shadow Realm. But yeah, somehow that got me wanting to look up the game and meet the characters and give it another go. Realize, wait, I don't care about graphics now. I just care if they run well. And on the DS, those games don't run bad, so I want to get it. look up the price of the game, and back then, I'm gonna use price charting somewhere to show you what it would be. But basically, it was not cheap. It was probably $80 or so back then, and I was like, oh, that's too expensive for me back then. And I didn't want to get it because, I wasn't sure I liked the game. It was on the DS. I was like, still playing the 3DS at the time, but the Switch was a year away, and I didn't know it then. But yeah, that's probably one of honestly, the weirdest ways I've ever been exposed to, and well, not even exposed to a new game, just wanted a game. Not because, oh, the music's good, or oh, the story's good, or oh, it has animation from a company I love, or oh, it's developed by a company or a design I love. No. It was a character's fandom. And I was like, my god. And there was like other good stuff out the game too. Like the music's really good, and the animation, as I said, was impressive for the DS. So like I could have been swayed by those, but no, it had to be Opera Clowns. But anyways, so yeah, I was hoping to get that game, and then I just passed on it again. But I still was interested in the character, and I was like, maybe they'll make a sequel, maybe they'll port it. And then over the next few years, I'd follow CyberConnect 2 on Twitter because they made the game. I was like, oh, maybe I can bug them into porting it because the Wii U exists. It has 2 screens in the DS Virtual Console. Let's get on the Wii U. Problem is, Nintendo didn't allow any good party games to put games up on the Wii U DS Virtual Console, so they weren't able to get up, but they tried. Natsume, people I know, they couldn't get Lufia 2 up, for instance, the Super Nintendo one or the remake. So I don't think Bandai would have any better luck. But yeah, XSEED games, I don't think DS games were printed back then. They couldn't reprint it, even though I think they did reprint some stuff like Last Story and Pandora's Tower. I think they printed a few times. Those were other games that people wanted from them that they brought over that Nintendo passed upon, believe it or not. So yeah, we are going over all the XSEED hits today. But yeah, Solatorobo was once again on my radar as a game to buy, on the same list as other games I wanted to buy, like East 4, Dawn of East, East 3, East 5, the other East games. And why I bought most of the East games and some other stuff like Trails in the Sky 1 and the Legacy of East DS port that's god awful. Piece of shit! That I used as a prop earlier. Yeah. It's just crazy that a company that I didn't really give credit to, especially since in terms of Trails games, they were slow as ass localizing Trails in the Sky second chapter and third chapter and the Cold Steel games because those had too much text to localize, and they somehow did it anyway. And for better or worse, they at least got that series kicked off, even if it's all Falcom makes nowadays, besides East, and I'm kind of sad about that. But yeah, Solatorobo XSEED brought that over too, and I say good for them. If it was a European exclusive, I don't think I've ever seen it. I've never seen Nintendo Power, and yeah, maybe a European furry would have done fan art of that character, but would have done a lot less, like sales-wise, and I'd be a lot less interested in buying the game because it's unobtainable, more so. But yeah, Solatorobo, my first ever crush, big crush, and probably one of the only virtual game crushes I would, if there was a gacha game or a dating sim, I would give my wallet for a CyberConnect 2 dating sim with Opera Clowns and whoever else could fit in that simulator. That'd be kind of funny. But yeah, of course, the actual game, the action game, the fun game, the game, not the character, the game. That's what I want to play, see the world building and all that stuff. So I looked off and on every now and then to see if I'd buy it. Sometimes I'd have money, but there was no copies available for a reasonable price. Sometimes I'd see a $70 copy, but didn't have enough money. I just passed on it. It wasn't a priority. I could buy new games instead. The old games would be around forever, right? Then 2020 hit. And as you know, that was a bad year in my life, but not as bad as 2019, where I lost a lot of people close to me. And then the prices of games spiked up worldwide. My Hot Gold copy is like $250, and it's really intense. So Solatorobo is $250 or $200 for a car alone, and the box and stuff is like even rarer. The CD's crazy rare. By some miracle, I got mine for $30. And I guess that was some sort of, maybe some bought from XSEED and forgot they had the Addict or something. I don't know. But in terms of the game itself, it's just one of the rarest DS games. Not as expensive as Tales Concerto, though. And that leads me to the final topic of Solatorobo. It's a game I want to play because cat waifu. Also, interesting gameplay. Now I've played all 3 Mega Man Legends games, love them, and want more like it. This is my kind of game now. It's not 14-year-old Connor that hate the game. No, I like it. I'm a furry. I like characters that are attractive. I like good gameplay. I love cute worlds. I love sky flying unless it's Skyward Sword. Ew. And I want to give the game a shot. But then CyberConnect2 said on Twitter that they can't exactly snap their finger and bring out Solatorobo on new systems or tell Concerto, because, again, legal issue for that game, but also because Bandai doesn't want a game that sold badly to have to sell badly again. So, seemed the series was doomed. As soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, shit. Gonna have to buy a copy and just say, oh yeah, this game was good. If it has a cliffhanger, I'll cry. Thankfully, my friend told me there's no cliffhanger. I'd be mad if there was. But, you know, such is the way of games. You get cliffhangers and they never conclude. Look at Mega Man Legends fans. I poke fun of them and now I'm one of them. And I'm waiting for Legends 3 or a collection. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe that happens before Solatorobo or Tale Concerto get republished. I'm gonna pull my hair out because that was considered a miracle too. But I digress. Needless to say, the pandemic made the game expensive, but I'm determined before the end of the year to buy Solatorobo. Card only, I don't care. 200 or below is my price for it. I'm gonna save some money, drop it on the game, and I'm gonna enjoy it on the original system. I will not emulate it. I may have to emulate Tale Concerto, but I will not emulate Solatorobo. I will be courteous. I will be honest. I will be truthful. And I'll get into the game. So now for the fun part about Solatorobo, and that I am going to talk about a comparison my friend made, and more on kind of why I think the series itself is kind of cool, to be honest. And then we'll talk about the new game. So in I want to say late 2017, I got into a pretty good genre of entertainment, Tokusatsu. As a kid, I liked Power Rangers to an extent. It was kind of cheesy, but I did like the Japanese action scenes and whatnot. And when I was a preteen, I learned online that it was a Super Sentai Japanese show, and I thought, oh, that's cool, I want to see it someday. 2015 or 16, I believe, it was 16, they started to put out the original Super Sentai in the US, and in 2017, I got my first ever Tokusatsu fix in the form of Mega Ranger. I think I may do a review on that someday in Unscripted form, so I'll just keep it brief. Basically, it had lots of stuff I liked. Great characters, great transformation scenes, great action, good writing, and a bunch of cool character designs, like robots, mechs, aliens, monsters, all that fun stuff. Gone to a bunch of the other Sentais like O-Ranger, Car Ranger, Ginga Man, Jetman, Zoo Ranger, Die Ranger, Kaku Ranger. Basically, Jetman, Flew, Ginga Man is all I've watched so far of that. And then lately, as of this week, I've gone to Ultraman, a classic in the Japanese industry. And then I got into a bunch of other things like Metal Heroes, which is where we go today. So Metal Heroes is kind of an obscure Tokusatsu franchise. There's some stuff on the YouTube channel for Toei that they have like 2 episodes subbed from each season. And some of them are blocked because Saban took 2 shows and dubbed them in this weird, corny virtual reality themed show called VR Troopers. I watched the first season. It's pretty okay, but it's very cheesy, and behind the scenes it wasn't even that well managed, and one of the actors said that actually one of the higher ups at Saban wasn't even kind to her, and he was actually kind of abusive. I'll have to go into that when I talk about VR Troopers if I do cover that in full, but needless to say, VR Troopers had a bad development, and I kind of don't blame the actress for wanting to not talk about it. Neither do I. So we'll just talk about the Japanese source materials. VR Troopers was consisted of 3 shows. It was consisted of Shida, the first show, that's the third in the Metal Hero series. And it was then followed up by Spielbahn a few years later after Just Being, a show I am watching thanks to Discotech. And then Metalder, a super android-themed action show, which was the basis of season 1 of VR Troopers, where it was basically, from what I gather from the bits I've seen subbed, a really cool action show where basically ancient android is constructed during World War II and then buried for years, and then its creator revives it to stop an evil god Neros. See what I did earlier? And basically has to save the world from his evil reign and stop him and his evil armies, fighting each person one by one and gaining them to his side as a bit of a, I guess, army of sorts, like turn it from bad to good. And it was just a really cool show, the bits I watched, and the VR Troopers uses its footage pretty well in most aspects. But there was some aspects I did spoil myself on a bit early, though, so if you want to avoid spoilers for a 35-year-old show almost, then skip ahead like 5 minutes or so. We'll to the next subject if I have the timestamps ready. But basically, Metalder is a pretty cool show, but it's known for being dark because there's lots of character death, action scenes, pretty grim scenarios, and also gross and violent monster designs. It's a pretty fascinating tokusatsu show, and it also has a bit of a trend about the topics of morality, mortality, and also just, this guy that, goes a human disguise, but, is actually an android in disguise, and he befriends a human girl named Mia, or Mai, and another person, and they become friends, but, if he's not even human, is that all what that matters? And it's a pretty interesting show. I watched a few episodes of it. I watched the movie. Not the full season, hoping to do that if they ever sub it one day officially, because I want to buy the sub releases of all tokusatsu. But basically, it's about a character who doesn't know who he actually is and has amnesia, not amnesia, but knows his purpose, defeat evil, and that's about it. That's about all you get. So what does this have to do with Solatorobo? One of my friends, I don't know who, told me it was like Tokusatsu Solatorobo, because Red has a giant mech, Opera has a mech, bunch of characters have a mech, those mechs all bound. It's a mech palooza. It's a mech show, basically. And one of the shows I thought of, because Red's mech reminded me, because the eyes, was Metalder. So I asked, and was curious, is Solatorobo about androids? And my friend said, yes, it kind of is. And I was like, ooh. And that was another bonus point on me wanting to get the game, because I'm like, if it's like Tokusatsu, and it has this cat lady, and it has good gameplay, it sounds like the best game ever made to me. So I wanted it, and that's why I'm searching for it still, and I'm willing to pay extreme prices for a DS game in 2021, instead of just waiting for it to go down like you do for stuff like Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest. I can wait for those. They'll be ported elsewhere. Even DS-only stuff like, Spirit Tracks, I can wait for that to go down. But Solatorobo, because of its circumstances, the IP holdings, all the weird stuff around it, I'm gonna buy it. So because of that, I decided I'm gonna play a bit of a fun game. I'm gonna guess the plot of Solatorobo in as badly as I possibly can without knowing much of it at all, only using the bits I know, and I don't want spoiled the real plot, so be courteous. But let's play a fun guessing game and see if I get this totally wrong or close to right. Let's see. So there was this main character named Red. He's a 17-old young adult dog hunter who does quests, I assume, for a living. He has a sister named Shakola, who's pretty cute. And then he meets this girl named Ale or something that's like a mysterious entity. I asked one of my friends outright, because I told him my idea, and I was like, oh, I bet he built Red, or Red, was created by Ale or something. And he's like, no, but he's important, so okay, let's just pretend Red's, not built. So okay, Red, Ale, and Shakola go around the skies and beat, evil armies, find out there's probably some guy building a death robot somewhere, and they want to get, energy crystals to power it up, because that's what Tokusatsu shows always do. They monster the week, you fight mechs of the week, you do odd jobs, in the meantime pass the days, and then the world calamity happens. And I heard it's in 2 parts. So I'm gonna guess the first part is maybe just being giant mech and everything saved, and then part 2 is about, the ultimate end of the world and the final battle, and he learns the past and all that stuff. So I'm gonna guess, again, don't spoil the wielding yet, but I'm gonna guess that maybe Red is, because I do know the Fuga comics in the manual say he has a human disguise. The human disguise is not actually disguise, but it's probably an alternate self, and he just became a furry because it became damaged, and that became his new body. So maybe he's a his brain was transplanted, and he becomes what furries dream of, and they want to become a furry in real life. And this guy gets his wish, but not in the way he wanted, and thus he doesn't know his past, and it's weird. And if it's like Metalder, I'm gonna go further and say there was probably an epic climactic battle with him and the Emperor guy, Bales or whatever. I'll show him somewhere. And they probably do a one-on-one duel with sword fights. It's probably gonna be super epic. And Metalder ends in someone getting decapitated. That's not gonna happen. I bet he probably just cuts his arm off or something, and then the guy becomes like fused with a giant mech, and then like ends the universe. They're in cyberspace, and then they both die or something, and then the game ends and everyone mourns, and then maybe they find his equipment. Oh, he's still alive, and stereotypical tropey stuff. Let me know if I totally butchered the game's plot. But yeah, that was kind of fun to just reminisce and go, oh, I'm gonna totally mess up the game. And Opera Quenz? I didn't even mention Opera. I assume she's probably just gonna be an anti-hero who, because I know she's hired by bad guy, probably goes, oh, bad guy hires me for money. Oh wait, bad guy wants me to do a war crime. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be neutral. And then she helps in the end, and everything's happy, and everyone likes the cat lady. And also, I guess that mouse, there was this mouse character named Mabel Million. I assume she would be the one to build Wed if Wed was artificial more than anything else. I'm pretty sure if anyone would build Wed in the game, it would be her. She looks like someone that builds someone. She looks like an android maker. I bet it's her, and I'm gonna be. If I'm not white, I'm gonna be missed opportunity. Make the mechanic, I guess, other waifu people like from this game. Make her the anti-hero or something. I don't know. But yeah, just a fun guessing game until I get the real game and see what it is for myself. Probably is nowhere near as violent or intense as I made it out to be. It's probably just casual, and it gets only intense near the end of the game. And probably doesn't even have any much emotional moments. But oh well, it's kind of fun to do. When I did Super Mystery Dungeon hype back in 2015, I even guessed the whole plot of that game. I was so wrong it wasn't even funny. So it's gonna be interesting to know if maybe my audience wants to give me a yes or no, just general muted vibes on if I got this right or wrong. So now for the main attraction. The main reason I made this video to kind of make up for a lack of a review. So after Solatorobo came and went, and after mine went on a quest to find the actual game, they announced something. A third game. Fourth if you count some mobile game that shut down after a few months. They'll tell Story Inc. We didn't get it. Japan got for only a few months. We didn't miss out much, but I would have played a furry mobile gacha game. They were so close. If they were a few years later, they might have had a hit on their hands. But I digress. They were making a game called Fuga, which is another game with a song in the title. Till Concerto, to CODA, Melodies, the Battlefield. They all have music in them. Basically, it's a strategy game I remember was announced in 2018, 2019. And it's a strategy RPG set in the same world on another island where basically a bunch of kids, like 4 to 12-year-old kids we're talking about, have to board a tank they find in the mysterious cave to fight an evil empire after they take their parents. And it's, a strategy RPG. It looks like a bit like Advanced Wars, but with like only one unit, so it might be turn-based combat. And I heard it did good at Anime Expo. It was pretty fun, had war-like elements that I think they toned down because it got a bit difficult. And it's a pretty interesting game. And I had my eye on it for a few years. It was going to come out in 2020. And I forgot. I think a lot of people forgot it was coming out. And then a month ago, they were like, oh, hey, it's coming out on the 29th of July. Same day as Blastmaster Z03. So yeah, my game I've waited 2 years for is also competing with a game I could have theoretically waited a decade for. So that's fun. No physical version, sadly. Hopefully, Limited One saves the day and makes it physical. Please. Give it a CE. I'll buy both copies on PS4, 5, and Switch. I'm gonna buy an Xbox in the meantime. But yeah, it's a strategy game. It's made by the same people. Different art design, I think. But it looks cute. Characters look adorable. The story looks to be well written from the trailers they've shown so far, though I've been dodging more spoilers on that because I'm going in blind. Maybe if this is a Mystery Dungeon-like experience and that I go in blind, cry at the end, and I love it, it could be a game of the year. Who knows? That's the fun part about upcoming games. And when this is uploaded, it'll be out and then it'll have meta scores, and hopefully it won't be mixed or Control World Corp. So I'm excited for this game. When it comes out, it's a disaster and I cry. So hopefully it won't be a bad game. But I don't think I'll care, because Solatorobo got good reviews, but it didn't sell well, so yeah, Fuga's coming out, and the main mechanic this is the part that shocks me. But I think I won't be surprised this has Toku vibes more than I expect. This may be the game that has Toku vibes, it's just one giant tank. But you have to battle enemies, and the enemies get hard. But you can win the battle by sacrificing one of the main characters and killing them forever in the Soul Cannon. This death beam that instantly wins the battle at the cost of someone's life. A pretty depressing turn of events that could change the outcome of the story and lead to lots of different endings, I hear. I am excited for this mechanic, but I know a lot of people who aren't. One of my furry friends who I met, and was a good friend of mine, he loves Solatorobo, really loves it, loves the characters as much as I do. I'll put it that way. And he wanted Fuga, but then heard about the Soul Cannon and was like, I cannot do this. I will not let a kid die in my game. I will not risk seeing a sad cutscene of a kid dying. He couldn't do it. And I guess I can't blame him for that. It's a touchy subject, especially with all the scary stuff going on in the world. I guess, I'm a good player. I guess I will not let that happen. But, I played Dane and Wampa. They're characters who don't want to die, and then they die anyway, so surely, maybe I'll be immune to it. Who knows? Again, I'll see how it goes and report back if I'm not traumatized by Fuga. But besides that iffy mechanic, it does seem like more the same. More cute characters, good art style, great music from what I heard, looks fun, and it's on everything. Yes, Xbox, Steam, Epic, PS4, 5, not free, Switch, it's on everything. I don't have to worry about if I did decide to skip it in 5 years, going on the eShop and it's not there anymore. It will always be there. The curse is broken because Bandai did not publish this. Yes, CyberConnect 2 themselves did. I think they said it was after some experience with localizing stuff like Naruto games they made for the worldwide audience. And thus Fuga is a worldwide game on all systems, and I can actually use my power. But you may be wondering, if you're excited for this game and you review stuff, why won't you review it? And I'm gonna be fair, I'm probably gonna review it on my website, but I'm not asking for a review copy because I want to support the series financially. Especially if I had to emulate Teo Concerto, I might as well go, okay, if I can't buy this game, and I'm gonna buy this one second hand because of the high value, I'm gonna buy the new game. The day it comes out, just like the old days, give it a shot. If I don't like it, whatever. If I get busy with life to not beat it, whatever. If I beat it and love it, I'll have done a great choice in my life. So yeah, Fuga, Melodies of Steel comes out in a few days from now. And I'm going to be an ad and say, if you like furry games, if you're a furry that watches my channel for my fur content, thank you for supporting my normal side. I like that because it means you like me as a person. If you are someone that likes strategy games, or if you're someone that likes very tough choices, or roguelikes, even though I don't think there's much roguelike here, I do think you should give this a shot. Indie devs could need it. Lots of big games have blown up that were expensive, like Hades blew up. I didn't play it, but I hear it was good. Hades blew up, Celeste blew up, what else blew up? Undertale blew up. My god, we want to talk about indie games with lots of furry characters and cute characters people love to this day. Undertale did it. I don't care for it much, but hey, maybe this will be next Undertale? I mean, I hope so, for the sake of the devs and then getting the other two games reprinted. Basically, if you want me to see my cat wife, you need to buy this game. Anyways, that should mostly do it for this Unscripted Memories on Telltale Bronx, a series I have not played much of, but I'm interested in getting and just want to reminisce on the past. Some games have issues of being in re-release hell. Some games have issues of only being birthed from those Kickstarters. All-Type Final 2 is another example. That game was birthed from a Kickstarter, and I bought the game. It lives up to the hype. Love it. Same with Valve's collection that's being crowdfunded on Japanese websites. I can't crowdfund it, but I'll buy it when it comes out. This was not crowdfunded. This was all in-house, all by themselves. There's 2 other games in the works, I think, that are not furry games, so I don't care, but they're fun, I'll check them out. And maybe CyberConnect 2 could make other games and genres out, like, no matter what. Like, if they make, like, what, an Inuyasha Metroidvania? What else do I like? Inuyasha. Just make an Inuyasha game! Though the last one I think that they made was made by Wising, a fighting game, so... But hey, if you want an anime to make something off of and Bandai lets you, make one of Lasha Hime. That'd be great. I'd buy it. I'd buy an anime arena fighter because it's based off an IP I grew up with and loved, and also got me through a rough part of my childhood. But yeah, Fuga comes out. It's crazy. A game series I got into because of a Nintendo Power preview, had good art style, that I put back on the shelf because I looked ugly. Then I got back wanting to get because of a Rule Dirty 4 of a cat lady. And now I'm wanting the new game just to enjoy it, just to have fun, and it's almost here. Sometimes we have weird ways of getting in touch with a game. One of my friends says one of the weirdest things that happened was they got gifted the game they hated and thought they were gifted as a joke, only for it to become one of the funny, ironic favorites. I know someone who hated Night Trap and got the PSO physical just to collect, but they gave it a shot and ended up finding it very cheesy and fun. So, hopefully my weird ends of the discussion today don't weird anyone out. I kept my best to make this PG-13. And CyberConnect 2, forgive me. And forgive my bird. Until next time, bye!